You guys have asked for a long time, and I'm really excited that my friend and fellow automotive journalist Carl Brower, come on over here, Carl, is so generous to let us film his Dodge Challenger SRT Demon. And I wanted to start first, so I usually answer questions from Instagram and YouTube's community page. I want to answer the questions live that are coming in. Thank you guys so much for joining us. But first, I want to let Carl just give me a little backstory on your Demon.
Sure. You know, my first love of automobiles was drag racing. I had a '69 Plymouth GTX before I had my driver's license.
It was purple, right?
No, I had a purple Challenger too once upon a time, but this one was like the first car I got. It actually needed it didn't need a lot of work, but it didn't look great. But it had the 440 and a 4-speed in it, and I watched too much American Graffiti growing up, so I was a huge fan of John Milner and Fastest Car in the Valley and that whole thing. So I was out in that car enjoying myself before I even had my license, and I've always loved American muscle cars. And I had a 70 Plymouth GTX for 24 years. I put about 50,000 miles on it. I've had a Dodge Challenger, a 70 RTSE, and I had a 73 Dodge Challenger Rally when I was younger in college, when that was all I could afford. So I've had a lot of fun Mopars, but when this one showed up and it was being promoted by Dodge really creatively, I kept literally looking away because I already had another big automotive bill coming because I'd already been approved for another car, one of the new Ford GTs. And
the new Ford GTs. I'm just going to sort of highlight that for a second. Carl also has the new Ford GT. He had an old Ford GT, my complete and utter dream car. And now who owns that car, Doug? Sorry.
Doug DeMuro's got it, yeah.
Doug DeMuro owns his old Ford GT, and he has a new Ford GT, which I hope will feature at some point. But sorry, I love that car so much. I didn't want to let that just slip through.
Yeah, so I had that car coming. I knew the new one was coming, and I knew how much it was going to cost. So I told myself I can't be getting one of these. They're too expensive. And then I went and drove it at the press launch after 6 months of hearing about it and all, and thinking it was like the ultimate, you know, Carl from his teenage years car, but he was just not going to buy one. And then I saw it and drove it at the press launch, and it was like, maybe I'll just see what's the deal with these things. And long story short, I ended up with one of these too. So yeah, it's an amazing car. Like I said, it represents probably what me, when I first got into cars and what pulled me into automobiles, would have dreamed of when I was 15 years old, before I ever had my car first.
And we're here. Yeah. And we're here, and you've got the Demon. And they're only, what, 3,220 made?
3,300, 300 for Canada, 3,000 for the US.
So this is a very rare car. You'll see other Challengers, of course, but you will not see that Demon logo. And it is so potent. I mean, I've driven high horsepower cars, but high horsepower rear wheel drive cars like this just don't really exist. They're all wheel drive now, and so they're great off the line, but they just don't give you that same thrill. Yeah. And so I want to see, Brett, do we have questions coming in?
Not yet. A lot of people, not many questions. Oh, okay. Someone asked if you're gonna do a POV drive.
Yeah, we're gonna try to do a POV drive of this one. Yes. I forgot to text you the other questions. That's my bad. I know someone asked just in general about the power and torque, and so should we pop the hood?
Let's do it.
Okay. And I also like this. We are next to a motorcycle hotspot, so there's gonna be some noise from bikes. I apologize. I love that Carl optioned this one with the matte black hood. You can either have it all body color matching. This is the Tour Red paint job with the matte black hood. It also has the matte black trunk cover, which is so cool. And look at that engine. 6.2 liter supercharged HEMI V8 with the Demon coming out of the engine.
Yeah, unique intake manifold with the Demon on there. And it makes 808 horsepower with premium, and it makes 840 horsepower with high octane fuel.
And you've driven it with high octane fuel, right? I know one of the questions from Harsh was whether you had actually driven the car with the 100 octane fuel, and you've drag raced it too.
Yeah, so I've had it to the track probably 10 times, 8 or 10 times, and my best time in California was like a 10.2, and then I took it to the Dodge Demon Legion event, where you're only allowed to go if you're a Demon, that a Demon Club organizes once a year, and they always have it in January in Houston because that's where the air density is the best. And if you go there,
So
you're supposed to
humid.
be guaranteed to get your 9, meaning one way or another, all the people that help organize the event will make sure you get your 9-second quarter mile. And I got down to a 10.05 with it just the way you see it here.
Yeah.
You know, rear seat in, the Harman Kardon audio system in, and just using my own slicks and the front skinnies. And then I asked the guy for some help who ran the event. He went and got his Hoosier slicks that had no treads on them whatsoever, like these Nitto tires have. They're pure drag radials.
Yeah.
Put them on the car, ran it down. First time was a 10.01. Second time was a 9.99.
Oh my gosh, you got your 9.
So I've done the
That's
9-second
insanity for a production car to run in the 9s. I don't know if you guys know much about drag racing, but a 9-second car is a ridiculously fast car.
Yeah.
You see like the 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds is quoted by Dodge and all that, but a 9-second car is usually a heavily modified vehicle
Yeah.
getting to those speeds on crazy wide tires. They're going to be all slick, and that's how they're going to get those times. But
Yeah.
this is a production car.
The fact that I pulled the 10.01 in it, essentially as you see it here, except with the skinnies on the front that are in the trunk right now that I can
We
put
got to
on-
go look
that I
those.
can put on in
Yeah.
10 minutes or 5 minutes. But you know, and then I drove this thing. I've driven it, you know, hundreds of miles in a single day, and it's actually a total sweetheart. It's a very easy car to drive, and so exactly what you said, Miles. The fact that it'll pull a 10 flat and a 9-second if you get all the right perfect
Yeah.
circumstances, and then you want to drive, you know, 500 miles and go visit your relatives in a whole nother city, get in the car and go. And that was always, by the way, that was always my thing. That's why, again, why this car really resonates with me. When I was growing up, I remember, like, I had my 69 and then I had a 70 Plymouth GTX, and my older brothers were great at tuning. So they'd make both those cars were very fast in the Denver area where I grew up. They knew how to tune them for the high altitude. You saw a lot of cars pumping out black smoke when people floored it because they were all running too rich because people
Yeah.
hadn't rejetted their carbs for the high altitude. My brothers knew how to make my car run right there. That gave me an advantage on a lot of the drag racing that I did back there. All of it legal and in a controlled environment, of course. And I would see cars that would be loud and they'd have crazy wheels and they'd have crazy tires and all, and they were no faster, or maybe they were about as fast as my car. And so from very early on, I learned that the idea that you destroy the car's usability in every other way just for a straight line speed,
Yeah.
I always thought that was foolish and had no patience for that. So that's why this car to me is so amazing. It's not how fast it is, it's how fast it is while being so amazingly easy and fun and really
And
great.
just like a Challenger.
It's just, you know, you stay down below a third throttle application, and you would just feel like you're in a really nice personal luxury coupe.
And that's been my experience. I mean, I haven't driven a Demon, but I've driven all of the Hellcats up to the Red Eye, and it's always been that experience. Like, they're so drivable, even with like, there's an eco mode, right? And that'll kill the throttle response on an almost 800 horsepower car in the case of the Red Eye.
Yeah.
And it's like, anyone could drive this car.
Yeah.
Now, granted, not anyone can drive the car quickly, and that's why we see accidents happen. It's because that someone can go into a dealership who has no experience driving a performance car and buy an almost 800 horsepower car in the case of the Red Eye
Yeah.
is kind of wild to me.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane, but the fact that you can do that's like America.
And
That's amazing.
What's funny to me, Miles, is everyone I know, there's other people in the community that, in our automotive journalism community I know, that are like Euro-oriented sports car guys, you know, very sophisticated, you know, performance cars that are really precise and all that.
Yeah.
And then they get in Red Eyes and they're like totally in love. They're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this thing is so it is so funny how, I mean, it's a bad like Tim Allen cliche, you know, but the more power thing really does like
Yeah.
forgive all other sins in
Yeah.
the car. Is this car super, you know, light and nimble around corners? Not
No.
at all, you know, and does it even have the best braking componentry? No, they actually put smaller front brakes on to help the weight transfer to the rear. So the braking is actually one of the weaker points in this car if you do it. If you do it a lot. If you just do it once, you're fine, but you can start to fade the brakes if you do
Yeah.
it a lot. But it doesn't matter because it's so nice to drive when you're not hot rodding it, and it's so much fun when you are hot rodding it. It doesn't matter whether it goes around corners fast or not.
Well, I think they probably want to hear it start up.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure. And do we have questions coming in, Brett? Guys, Carl is a bevy of knowledge about this car and all about the cars. Oh. My heart was like, it just started beating so fast. I love the sound of this car. So, guys, what I'm saying is ask your question because Carl knows a lot about this car.
extra single dollar, and you get the Demon crate, which has a floor jack, an air compressor, 2 wheels. You have to get your own tires, but the 2 wheels are in the crate. A great impact driver, and they all have Demon themes on them too. It says Demon on the impact driver. On the impact driver case, Demon on the jack. So all these Demon mesh things, you get an air pressure gauge, checking your tire at the track and stuff.
The idle, by the way, is so loud and deep. It's actually like shaking the ground.
Yeah, no, you can feel it in your chest.
Yeah.
Like I always like to say, you know, it's resonating through your chest cavity.
Yeah.
Someone was asking about what's the maintenance like on this car?
I get the oil changed like once a year.
So just like a normal car's maintenance. If you're drag racing it all the time, granted, you're going to go through fluids a lot quicker.
Yeah, if you were really using it heavily, you probably want to like flush the brake fluid. I think I have had the brake fluid flushed once just because I knew I was using it in the car.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I change the oil once a year, and because you know, oil runs out either through use or time.
Yeah. Right.
And even though I'm drag racing it, sometimes, most of the time, it's just sitting around. I mean, it's got 5,400 miles on it, so it's not like it's in the garage all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not getting driven nearly enough to wear the oil out, except for when I take it to the track.
Right. Jeez. Any other questions?
There were a bunch of firsts for this car that we can talk about. Like it was the first car that could do a wheelie. It was the first production car that could lift the front wheels off the ground at a drag strip.
Amon asked you, do you know the launch control sequence?
Yeah, and it's tricky. There's so this is the first car. So many firsts in this car. First car that had a trans brake, which is a very drag strip, drag race car oriented thing. And this is a production car with a trans brake. So to use the trans brake, you have to like properly, you know, engage the launch control mode, or sorry, the drag mode, and then you have to hold the paddles, and then you have to get to a certain RPM. Then you have to release one paddle, and then you have to release the other paddle and stuff. And it's actually not a bad way to get the best time, but the system's really convoluted. So doing it when you're in a track racing other people, because you've got to like do all this stuff, and of course by the time you lit that second pre-stage light, you're lucky if you've got 10 seconds. Usually it's 3 to 5 seconds. So you've got the state pre-stage light, then you got to like get everything in place, get the RPM just right. So it's unfortunate. I think if there's a failing of the car, it's that Dodge probably could have and should have come up with a more straightforward trans brake usage. But you know, otherwise it's fun, and a lot of people don't use the trans brake. I usually don't. Certainly I don't if I'm racing other cars because it's just too hectic. If I've got all the time in the world, then I'll use it.
Can you actually show us the sequence? Because they want to see it. Sure. So Brad will plug this out in there. And you paid the other $1 for the rear seats.
Right. The passenger seat was $1 and the rear seat was $1. And then I did get the better Harman. It's pretty much loaded except no sunroof. So the idea of cutting a hole in a car with 840 horsepower and a body that's going to be twisted by 840 horsepower scared me. So I decided not to do that. I didn't want that. Plus the extra weight that high up. So you go to the SRT screen, which if you hit it twice, and now it's in drag mode. That means the air conditioning is now directing cold air into the intake manifold, not into the cabin. First car to ever do that. Uses the air conditioning to cool the engine. And then you have to go to drag setup. And I don't have high octane fuel, so it's only at 800 horsepower. And it's been months since I did this, so. Drag options, and put it in. It's got line lock on, so you can burn the rear tires. And I think it's been a long time. It's such a convoluted process, and I don't use it very often. I'm forgetting, but it's something along the lines of, you know, you have to power brake the car to a certain RPM. And you have to pull both paddles. Then you let one paddle go, and then you're ready to go. And then when you release the other paddle, it launches you with the trans brake.
Yeah, you're right. That's something that Dodge should have just perhaps made a little simpler.
And a lot of people who own the cars now are like, how come it didn't just work like this? So everyone came up with better things. Now, to Dodge's, you know, credit or you know, excuse, whatever, defense, putting a trans brake on a production car had never been done before.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, so they're figuring things out. Is this the chassis number right here? 75?
yeah, that's the chassis.
That's
number.
cool.
Put it back custom on. It's getting hot in here because there's no air conditioning on.
Yeah, right. It's going towards the trans brake.
And I don't know if you know this, Miles.
Yeah.
But Ed Starr donated $50.
Ed, you are a saint. Thank you, Ed.
And he said, now that Stellantis has bought FCA, will production of the Challenger continue past 2021?
I don't know, Carl, what do you think? So he asked, now that Stellantis has bought FCA, do we think that production of the Challenger will continue past this model year?
There's no question. This car has proven to be one of the most successful cars for FCA.
They've sold it. They continue to rebuild this car. They just, the fine tuning of this car.
Yeah, they keep tweaking it. That platform started in 05.
Yeah.
And of course, it came from an E-Class.
Yeah.
It started in the mid-90s. But, you know, there's a statement on German engineering. You can have a 1995 chassis that still drives like an excellent car and can do, you know, quarter miles and lift the wheels off the ground. And it's not the same chassis. Of course, they modified it heavily for all these uses. But they're going to need an all-new chassis soon. This car is relatively heavy, relatively wide, not the most advanced suspension design. So there will be a fully redesigned Challenger probably in less than 2 years.
Yeah.
But the Stellantis thing, you know, I thought it was going to happen in like 19, 20, 21. And I think the Stellantis thing might slow it down a year again because we're just going to have to settle in on how the whole company's structured and then hopefully get that figured out.
Do you think they're going to use an Alfa Romeo shared platform? Or do you,
I think they will. It'll be. I think the next Challenger will be much more pony car-like. It's going to be smaller. It's going to be still rear-wheel drive, thank God, and of course, but it's going to be probably more closely sized like a Mustang.
I think that the moment the new Challenger comes out, these kind of cars are going to jump yet again in value.
Yeah.
Because there's something about these cars that we all know as an enthusiast population cannot continue into the future.
Right.
And so,
100%. And they have a distinctive feel to them, Miles, that the new one will not capture.
Yep.
You know, now some might say, yeah, it'll be able to go around corners. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to be a whole different feeling car.
Yeah.
And there's a huge fan base. And in case you haven't noticed, just look at the sales of Challengers since 2008 when it was launched. In general, since
It's just
2008,
going up.
they've done this.
Yeah.
Most cars, they go like this
plateau,
in a few years.
Yeah.
The fact that this thing has even gotten close to Mustang sales, it destroyed Camaro sales.
Yeah.
And those cars have been redesigned since 2008 at least once or more, and this one hasn't.
And they keep, that's the thing, like, they keep remaking the Mustang and the Camaro to try to like reinvigorate interest. And this car is just like, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and people are gonna keep buying it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep looking like a classic Challenger and making more and more power.
Yeah.
People will keep buying it.
It's insane. Well,
Do you think it'll be the same with the Charger?
Yeah, the Charger will become a more sophisticated four-door sedan, but, but it should be a rear-wheel drive performance sedan still.
that one I think is arguably even more going to be lost for us as enthusiasts because that is so completely distinctive at this time in our like production for cars. A completely rear-wheel drive, big muscle car sedan. That is totally going to change with the next generation. It's going to be more Alpha-like. It's going to be more Euro-like, and that'll be sad.
I know. I think you'll
hold on to this car, Carl.
We'll gain things when that happens, but we're going to lose things too.
Yeah, right. No, for sure. And that's always it's a give and take. Well, should we go drive it?
Let's drive it. You want to hop in here?
Sure. And we're gonna have to get Brett in the back. We're gonna squeeze you in. Oh, okay. I see.
I didn't even know there was 4 seats.
Yeah, well, so it's an option, a $1 option. I mean, you can add back the rear seats.
I got these seat covers on here because I put them on when I was going to ship it to Houston, and I knew all these people were going to be in it, and I was going to be jumping in and out of it. And I was like, you know what, I kind of like that for protection.
Sure. Well, it's going to preserve the car.
Yeah.
Is that a blinker for you?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Something else I'd say about this car that's unique, that I think is unique, you can't see it as well because I've got these covers on. You can kind of see it in the back seat where you are. Is I've driven a lot of luxury cars, a lot of high-end luxury cars like Bentleys and Rolls Royces and all. I was shocked the first time I got in this car and I like touched the leather. The leather in this car.
It's Napa leather, right?
It's, I think it is Napa leather. It's the most supple leather, among the most supple leather I've ever felt. And I remember just being like, why did they put all this high level of quality of leather in a Dodge Challenger drag race car? Yeah. And I don't think it's necessarily better than other Challengers and all, but I think only the highest end Challengers have this level of leather, and I'm not even sure about the Chargers and all. But I mean, again, if you just like if you just like touch the leather, it's just like, it's really nice, and it smells amazing. Like this car will sit. One of the good things about when the car sits for a while and I don't get in it is, and then when I finally do, it's all like built up the smell. And the first time you open it, it's like, yeah, it's got some of the best smelling leather.
Yeah. And remind me, what are the factory tires? What's the width of these tires? And what they're not our compounds, but they're as close to that as possible, right?
Yeah,
that's street legal.
They're the Nitto drag radials, so they've got minimal tread, of course, and they're super sticky and gummy. This still has the original tires. That's the thing too. Everyone assumed these tires would be like dead after like 6 weeks because they're just gonna fall away.
Yeah.
And they're fine still. This car's got 5,000 miles, and it has been to the track multiple times, and I've done a lot of heating them up to get traction, and it's still, these tires still have good wear. Don't forget that you have the same size tires front and rear, so in theory you can rotate. You can use one set of tires for drag racing.
I forgot that they're the same width front and rear.
And then you rotate them, and now you've got the second set, so you can kind of double your life cycle on your tires.
And then I mean that's definitely going to help in terms of handling.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other funny thing too about this car is that people assume, it's like, I've never met a corner it could handle, and it's like, well, it's not a Porsche 911, but I've for a long time I've wanted to, and I still plan to do at some point, take this to like a drag. I want to take this to a road course, Willow or somewhere, and I want to take something like, I don't know, like a 90s that was known for handling.
Well, so do you know Brad Iger? He takes the road courses all the time, and he like astonishes people with how good it handles.
I know a race driver who was a factory race driver and vehicle dynamics tuner for Ford, a guy named Billy Johnson, and he's broken track records in red eyes. Now he's like, you got to do it like the first lap or two because the brakes are pretty fried because the car weighs so much. So you gotta be on your game the first couple laps to get it done. But he's broken lap records in red eyes.
Jeez. I'm just gonna hear that whine. Well, I went past the whine. The whine's right here. Listen to that. That is unbelievable. I love that noise so much.
Yeah.
And then the HEMI takes over.
It's the Demon screech.
I love that they made drag racing
throughout this weekend, so we're definitely going to take it easy, but it's just the noises this car makes is enough to thrill you. And then there's the actual speeds, which are insane. So yeah, 0 to 60 in this car in 2.3 seconds. That's what it's supposed to be. But the top speed they max out at 140.
No, it maxed out at 168 with the factory ECU, because that's what these tires are rated at. But if you put in the Demon crate ECU, which is one of the things besides all the stuff in the trunk you saw, there was a new crate, there was a new ECU in there, and that's what lets it go to the 840 horsepower, and you actually change this out so you get the pump. This pump isn't on the factory buttons thing in here. This launch thing is just a wider button. So you get a new control feed pod down here, so you can change it to high octane gas, and then you get the 840 horsepower, but only the race ECU lets you do that, and it also removes the top speed limitation. So there are people out there who've done it with the Demon, and it'll go 203 miles an hour. So this car would go over to
cushioning.
No, it's a very, very comfortable car to drive. It's funny, I've been in other regular, it's like boom, ba boom, ba boom, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot my car's got a lot better ride quality than most of these Hellcats and Red Eyes.
But yeah, it's kind of just really easy to cruise around in.
Yeah.
Shockingly easy.
And then, there is a street tire package that was like a dealer package that Chrysler offered.
Yeah.
And I went ahead and ordered it, and it's basically the rolling the tires and wheels from a regular Hellcat. So it's 20-inch wheels instead of 18s like these, and it's like a 50 series sidewall instead, or maybe even like a 40 series sidewall instead of the taller sidewall. And I've got those at home, and I put them on occasion.
I just got to hear that whine. It's unbelievable. I love that whine. The throttle, it's like you just
quarter throttle.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just feeding it in just a little bit, just to sort of isolate that one, because the more you go into it, then the Hemi takes over. Oh, the power.
Yeah.
It's intoxicating.
When I haven't driven it for a while again, you know, again with my schedule, I'm driving press cars and traveling all. So this car will sit for, it's like, oh yeah, you know, you drive it and you're like, boy, I need to drive this more often.
Yep. The kicks of the shift are so hard. It's not quite Lamborghini, like kick you in the square of your back hard,
right?
But they force it on purpose just to give you that theater.
And again, what are you at? Like a quarter?
Oh, I'm not even.
Half throttle?
I don't want to be spinning any tires or anything like that. And I know these cars. I've driven the Hellcats, the Red Eyes, and all. I know they'll spin tires all the way through fourth, even maybe into fifth gear.
Yeah.
So I'm not even. I'm just barely on it because I just want to just feel the natural.
But isn't that the funny thing when you realize how much you know?
Factor.
You know, back and forth. You know, with some time to set the car in between.
Yeah.
You can go pretty fast in this car.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I totally see what you mean. The brakes are very good initially, and I mean, if you're gonna use them over and over again, that heat fade is just gonna set in.
Yeah. I think there are people who've upgraded the brakes on these just because it's like, you know what, I'll give up another tenth of a second because the weight doesn't transfer as well.
If they're not going to the drag strip, if they're not doing that, then yeah, that makes sense.
The other tricky thing too is, again, you've only got these 18-inch front nittos because they want more sidewall, so it'll
you
give
can't fit that big of brakes.
Precisely. So your brake, you're somewhat limited on your physical size of the disc.
How's the turning radius?
It's not terrible.
That's decent.
Yeah.
You just take things a little wider than you think you would in a standard sedan or coupe, and you're fine.
Yeah.
The seats are so comfortable. It's just like I'm realizing the power at my disposal while being this comfortable is just, they're so at odds.
Yeah. No, I mean, remember when they first introduced the Hellcat in 2015, and they talked about how you could buy the Hellcat at the time for whatever it was, $60,000, or you could buy like a Lamborghini to get more, you know, the kind of same level of horsepower.
Right.
And they were 707 horsepower cars.
And that's what people pit the two against one another a lot when it first came out.
Yeah, and this is just a little more, you know, extreme of that, where it's like I could feel this powerful going down the road, but I'd have to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. Brad, do we have any other questions coming in?
Not a ton of questions because sometimes on the road it cuts out.
Ah, okay.
So I'm happy to reconnect every once in a while.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Guys, if you're tuned in right now, I apologize for the connection. It's just we get sometimes. We have problems with connection. You're good. Fell asleep looking at your phone. Work from anywhere.
Bikers are all here in the wine, wondering what's going on.
Such an iconic sound, that whine. And it sounds so different in this car versus like something like the GT500.
Yeah.
It's just a different
sound. Very distinctive, yes.
It's too good.
It's such a good chorus. It's the whine and then it's like, okay, let's bring up the bass now. With that heavy.
It's got a bunch of, it's got the trans brake in there, but it's got a bunch of other stuff that was unique to the Demon.
That, I can't get over that sound. I can't get over that sound. I just want to bottle it up and listen to it all the time. And like we were talking about, just the way that goes with just barely feeding into the throttle. and the just speed that comes from it.
Yeah.
The car. We don't usually have people not asking a ton of questions during this, so I'm imagining people are just wanting to listen to the car.
Yeah.
And maybe connectivity issues.
Connectivity issues, but like even me, like I'm just it's like
Literally enjoying the ride.
I don't do this very often. You know, like just enjoying the sound of a car.
And you just know it's the king of the Challenger. Brett, do we have anyone even like tuned in still, or is it like
Yeah,
the
there's
connectivity?
some people, but I'm having to reconnect like every few
Okay,
seconds.
so we'll note that this area for the live Q&A is not the best, but at least my experience has been pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And also noting that weekends on this road are not necessarily the best. A lot of folks out, especially cyclists.
Yeah.
It's crazy how comfortable it is.
Yeah.
For like the comfortability should not be in an 800 horsepower car.
Yeah.
It's like
You should have to sacrifice something,
Yeah,
right?
Well,
but
you know, repeated hammering of
And I think Dodge has they have the best to make this car as lightweight as possible, and that's a weight on all the designers of supercars and stuff like that. They're like, we gotta scrimp and save as much weight as we can. This one, they're like, no, we'll just give it the couch cushion chair,
Yeah.
and we'll.
But and actually they did. I can't remember what they'd done, but I'd have to go back and look. But they did do some weight issues because they knew weight was an enemy of pulling those quarter mile times. So I think most Hellcats weigh like 44, and this weighs like 42.
This does.
So
weigh
it
less,
actually
yeah.
does have a 200 pound give or take weight advantage over similar Challengers.
That's fair.
I think a lot of it came out of the front again for the
Yeah, it's
weight
definitely
transfer.
All right, guys. Well,
just can't beat that one.
if you're still tuned in, thank you so much for watching this live Q&A. Carl, thank you so much for letting us just have a quick spin in your car.
Oh yeah.
The Demon is meeting a hero for sure, and I know for Brett.
Oh, absolutely. This is my ultimate dream car.
All right, guys. We'll